Okay, students, so let us begin. So in the previous lecture, I have explained to you all how to write electronic configuration. Okay, fine. We have discussed everything. What are quantum numbers? What are the 4 quantum numbers? I hope you all remember. Principal quantum number, azimuthal quantum number. Okay, fine. Then when we have to write configurations of higher elements means elements with a large atomic number. So when we are writing the configuration, we have to see to it that we write the orbitals in a specific order. Okay. So students, see, initially it is 1s, then 2s, 2p, 3s, 3p. So till here it is not a problem. Till here it is only you can say systematically. But after 3p onwards, then you all have to see. You all have to follow. If you all can follow this diagram as well, or here it is written also linearly. Okay, fine. So after 3p, 4s comes into picture. So 3p, 6 will happen, and then 4s, 2 will happen, and then it will go back to 3d. Okay, fine. So why is this happening? This is because of the difference in energy levels. So we go from lower energy to lower energy level to higher energy level. Okay, fine. If in case you all are confused at any point which one will come first, you all can use this n plus L rule. Students, all this I have explained last time. Okay, so now you all know how to write electronic configuration. All right. If you all want, what you all can do is just a minute. They are in your textbook. The homework which I gave you all, which page number it is? Just a minute, okay, students. Here in your textbook they have given everything on page number 52. Okay, fine. All right. So in this table, students, on page number 52 of your textbook, they have given the configuration for the first 30 elements, starting from hydrogen going till zinc. Okay, fine. And obviously this is the atomic number. First element hydrogen, atomic number 1. Okay, fine. So you have to write configuration for all of them. Now students, last time I told you all that as if for now, ignore this condensed notation. I'll explain in today's lecture what this is. Okay. But I expected you all to write all the configuration, and one more thing that I asked you all to do was write it according to the energy levels. Okay, students, see, I'll tell you all what they do in your textbook. In your textbook, first they write down all the orbitals. Okay, first they'll just write down, just a minute. Okay, as you all can see, okay, for let us consider potassium, for example. Okay, so normally what we'll do, we'll see that, okay, potassium has atomic number 19. So first we'll write 1s2, then we'll write 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, and then according to the energy level we'll write 4s first. Okay, fine, accordingly. Okay, fine. So in your this thing, okay, I think so I should take some higher example, not potassium, because your potassium, it is not a problem actually, students. Wait, let me just take some example with a higher this thing, atomic number. Okay, okay, let us take zinc, the last one, okay, with atomic number 30. So normally we'll write 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3p6. Okay, till 3p6 we'll write, all right, and then we will write 4s2. Yes or no, according to the energy level. And after 4s2, we will write 3d10. Okay, fine. This is how normally it is expected to write the configuration. But if you all see, students, in your textbook, what they have done is, what they do in your textbook, I'll tell you all. First, they write down all the orbitals like this. Okay, they'll write down systematically all the names first. Okay, 3s, 3p, and 3d they'll write, and they'll write 4s also. But while filling, okay, while filling in the sense, while writing the electron number, now they'll be careful. Like first they'll write 2 here, then 2, then 6, okay, 2 and 6, and then now they won't write directly 10 over here, because they know that 4s comes first. So they'll fill 4s first, and then they'll come back to 3d. I hope you all are understanding. This is how they write in your textbook. That is the reason, if you all see in your textbook, it is in an order, like numeric order, according to principal quantum number order. Okay, this is not incorrect. But while writing, like while manually when you all are writing, usual tendency is that first, if you all write all the orbital names, there is a possibility that you all will directly fill, in that line only. You all won't remember that energy level concept in your mind. So I always suggest that don't stick to this pattern, stick to that energy level pattern only. Okay, find the energy levels that you all have memorized. So according to that, write the configuration. Okay, fine. Now students, if you all notice, see, now at zinc, Okay, let me just discuss what this condensed form is. For that, students, firstly we should see what the, okay, before that, students, please let me know if you all understood what I explained just now, how it is written in your textbook and how you all are supposed to write.
Yes, Miss.
Yes, miss.
Everyone, please let me know. Okay, fine. If you all have any
Yes,
doubts, then
miss.
please ask. Okay, fine. Okay, now students, see, this is your periodic table. All right, we all know that the last group that is there, okay, it is the noble gases. All right, fine. All right, so all the noble gases are last element along the period. Okay, so when you go from left to right, the last element that you'll encounter is a noble gas, and we know that this column that is there, this group that is there, or all the elements of the noble gas, they have stable configuration. Stable configuration in the sense they have completed their duplet and octet states and everything. Okay, fine. I hope you are understanding this. So students, how we write in condensed form. Now see, initially it is not a problem because initially the atomic number is very small. So I can write the entire configuration starting from 1s2 till whatever it is. But what if I asked you all to write a configuration of cesium, for example, over here? Okay, now cesium's atomic number is 55. So you have to start from 1s2 go till 55. Okay, so one alternate way of doing that is writing the condensed form. Now, before cesium, what comes, like according to the atomic number order, before cesium, xenon comes into picture, right? Yes or no? And xenon is a noble gas, which means it has a stable configuration. Okay, now students, see, you all are writing configuration for 54, you all are writing configuration for 55. It is going to be almost the same, right? Only for 55, one extra electron will be there. But the remaining configuration starting from 1s till whatever it is going to be same. So we use this condensed form method. So for example, if I asked you all to write electronic configuration for cesium, what you all will do is, in a square bracket, you all will write xenon. Okay, you all will write the symbol for xenon. So this indicates that entire configuration of xenon. Okay, now xenon's atomic number is 54. So starting from 1s2 till whatever the configuration is. And the last extra electron, because here it is 55, yes or no? So wherever that extra electron is going, that valence orbital, you all have to show it over here. Okay, or all the valence, the last two orbitals you all can show after the condensed form. Okay, fine. Students, if you all are not understanding it that well, don't worry about it. Let us just quickly see this table. Okay, now let's come back to this table. Let's start with the very simple elements. Now we have hydrogen first, then we have helium. Now we know that helium is a noble gas, right? 1s2. 1s2 is helium's configuration. Next we have lithium, students. Now lithium's atomic number is 3, meaning the configuration is going to be what? 1s2 and 2s1. Yes or no? That's it. But because helium comes before lithium, okay, and helium, it is a noble, it is a stable noble gas. What we can do is, instead of this 1s2, I can simply write the symbol of helium, okay, in a square bracket, and then whatever this extra part is there, 2s1. So this helium will indicate that in its place there is 1s2 and then 2s1. So 1s2 and 2s1 is configuration for lithium. You all can see the condensed form. Okay, students, this is actually helpful for higher compounds, like compounds with a large atomic number, where you all don't have to write starting from 1s2 going till end. For smaller compounds, it is not of much use, but still they have explained. Now, one more thing, students, if they have asked you all, like if you all have a question, write electronic configuration, they have given you all the element and the atomic number, please write down the entire configuration. Do not write the condensed form. Why? I'll tell you all. No matter how much you all remember your periodic table, there are chances that you all will get confused. Oh, which atomic gas is there over here? Okay, fine. Like for in this case, it is neon, but you all will get confused. Are the neon aega ya xenon aega? Okay, so it's better write the configuration normally starting from 1s2 going till end, because that is what you all are going to get marks for. Okay, when the question is to write electronic configuration. In your textbook, see, obviously they cannot write the configuration again and again everywhere. Now here that is not a problem, but ahead also when they are explaining, even in our modern periodic table chapter, you all won't see configurations written everywhere, the entire configurations. You all will see these condensed forms. Okay, I hope you all are understanding this. Okay. Now, for example, look at sodium. Okay, fine. Now, before sodium, which is the noble that gas that comes into picture, it is neon. So, students, configuration for neon is 10. So, we'll start 1s2, 2s2, and whatever it is. Sodium, for sodium, only one electron is extra. And before that, whatever the configuration, it is same as neon. So, you all can see how they have written sodium's configuration. Square bracket neon, and whatever that one extra electron, where it is going, 3s1. Okay, students, please let me know if you all have understood this condensed form concept.
Yes, miss.
Yes, miss.
Yes, miss.
Okay, fine, good. Okay, now students, we are almost done with whatever topics is required from this chapter. One last topic we'll quickly go through. Again, students, I'm not explaining it quite in detail because it will be explained to you all when structure of atom this chapter is taught to you all. So see to it that your textbooks are here, you all, and just mark the points that I'm asking you all to mark. Okay, fine. So as if for now, if we know that much, it is more than enough. Okay, fine. So students, this point I have already discussed last time, energy of orbits. Okay, it fills from lower energy to higher energy and all this is discussed. Now, okay, see, mark this point. Okay, mark this point about this Aufbau's principle. All right, the orbital wise distribution of electron in the ground state. Okay, the orbital wise distribution of ground state means when it is stable, when it is not in excited state. Okay, in excited state usually there is give and take or sharing of electrons. Okay, ground state is the original state of the element. All right, fine. Can be understood from what is called Aufbau's principle. Now, it's okay, students, if you all are not understanding. As we move ahead, you all will get a more clear idea what Aufbau's principle exactly is. Okay, so as you all can see here, it is written Aufbau is a German word. What is the meaning for building up and all? So the building up of orbital means filling up of orbitals with the electrons in the ground state of the atom. Now, what is this filling up and all? You all will understand. Just stay with me. Okay, see students, your Aufbau's principle, it is consists of three parts, or it is based on three parts. So you can see these 3 points over here. Increasing order of energy of orbitals. Okay, this is the first factor. This thing actually students are already know, है ना? Because last time I explained how the electrons are filled from lower energy level to higher energy level, and you all know that diagram, and I don't know if some of you all must have already memorized how the energy exactly is, after which orbital comes what. So that is the first factor for filling of electrons. Okay, so for example, if any atom is there, and how are the electrons filled? Really, okay, in reality, not in paper. So in reality, this is happening. In reality, first electrons will go in 1s, then they'll go in 2s. Okay, fine. I hope you all are understanding. Second is Pauli's exclusion principle, and third is Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity. It is written ahead what it is. So we'll see one by one what these points are. Okay, fine. Students, I am not discussing the first point because first point we have already discussed, the increasing order of energies. This N plus L rule, okay, from lower energy to higher energy and all. So this is the first factor that is responsible for the filling of electrons. Okay, fine, in orbits. Next, what is Pauli's exclusion principle? Students, for Pauli's exclusion principle, just do one thing. These two statements you all can see written in bold. Just mark these two statements. That is more than enough. Okay, fine. Students, all remember spin quantum number. When we discussed, there are 4 types of quantum numbers for an electron. The last one was spin quantum number designated by ms. Okay, so what was spin quantum number? Students, your electron, if it is revolving also, it is rotating on its own axis also. And electron has half spin. Okay, it's rotate halfway. It has half spin. All right. Now electron can go either clockwise or anti-clockwise. So if it is going clockwise, we say it has plus half spin. If it is going anti-clockwise, we say it has minus half spin. So this ms that is there, spin quantum number, has only 2 possible values, plus half and minus half. Okay, I hope you all remember that. So based on that concept, this Pauli's exclusion principle is what is written over here. No 2 electrons in an atom can have the same set of 4 quantum numbers. Okay, fine. No 2 electrons can have the same set of 4 quantum numbers. For example, students, for example, if I tell you all 1s2. Okay, 1s2. 1s2 means there are 2 electrons inside this. Okay, now for both the electrons, what is the value of n, principal quantum number? It is 1. What is the value of L? It is 0. Yes or no? Azimuthal for S orbital, L is 0, right? I hope you all remember these things. Okay, fine. Then what is the value for ML? Okay, so students, for ML, we write that range, if you all remember. So for S, it is 0. For P, it was -1, 0, +1. Okay, fine. For D, it was -2, -1, 0, +1, +2. So depending on these numbers, we actually come to know how many orbitals are present in the inside the subshell. Okay, so that was ML. So students, for both the electrons over here, the two electrons that are there inside 1s2, both the electrons have same N, L and Ml value. But what is Pauli's exclusion principle? No two electrons can have the same set of 4 quantum numbers, which means that the fourth quantum number ms that is there, it cannot be same for both of them. Students, see, if I go to next orbital, that is 2s2. Now in 2s2, what will happen? N is 2, L is 0, Ml is 0. Okay, fine. Yes or no? But again, what about ms? All right, fine. So inside a atom, they are meaning, to be more specific, inside one orbital. Okay, fine. So students, what is different then? If N is same, L is same, Ml is same, what can be different? Ms can be different, right? That is, out of the two electrons in 1s2, one s can have one electron can have plus half, and the other electron can have minus half. Okay, so if you all look at the other statement, only two electrons can occupy the same orbital and they must have opposite spins. I think so the second statement is more simple to understand. Okay, so students, see, S subshell does not have any orbital inside it. It is on its own. P subshell has 3 orbitals. D has 5 orbitals. F has 7 orbitals. And every orbital has 2 electrons in it. This point we have already discussed. That is the reason in S subshell maximum 2 electrons are present. In P subshell maximum 6 electrons are present. Why? Because there are 3 orbitals, right? And every orbital will have 2 plus 2 plus 2. So 6 electrons. In D subshell maximum 10 electrons are present. Okay, fine. So students, in one orbital, only 2 electrons can be present and both of them should have opposite spins. Okay, fine. Students, just let me know if I am audible enough and is the video lagging or is my voice lagging? Please let me know. Is it
No,
lagging?
miss.
No, miss.
No, miss.
Because if any of this thing is happening, then please let me know. All right. Okay, so students, we discussed the second factor, that is Pauli's exclusion. Students, these are the things that you all already knew. I mean, if you all understood the quantum numbers and everything, so understanding this is not a difficult part. Just a minute. Okay, one for one person. Okay, is now it is clear? Prince, please let me know. Okay, fine, cool. Okay, students, so these are the concepts that you all already know. The thing is that now they have given a label for it. Like you all know what to call it. I mean, if I tell you all one orbital can have only 2 electrons with opposite spins, so what is that exactly? It is Pauli's exclusion principle. It was discovered by Pauli. That is the reason, name after it. Okay, fine. So this is the second factor. Next, okay, students, here I want you all to mark one more point. That is this point. Okay, here only in the same paragraph where these statements were, the last point, these two electrons with opposite spins occupying the same orbital are called an electron pair. I think so you all must have come across this term earlier as well, electron pair. So what this electron pair exactly is? Students, obviously you all know the meaning of pair. It means it comes in two. So one orbital has one electron pair. Okay, fine. So you can mark this statement and keep. And this you all already know. Okay, it has two values of ms, which can be plus half, minus half. So if you all want, you all can just mark it and keep. Students, see why we are learning all this, because ahead in this chapter, you all have to like demonstrate the filling of electrons. Okay, fine. So I'll get to that point. Don't worry. Now let us discuss the third point under this topic, that is Hund's rules of maximum. Okay, no, wait. Before that, here one more thing you all can mark. See, again, students, as if for now, for my chapter, for modern periodic table, whatever points I'm marking, if you all just read that, that is more than enough. When this chapter is taught to you all entirely, sir will cover each and every point. So don't worry about it. But right now, just try to get into your head what I'm explaining, because that is what is necessary. Okay, fine. So here you all can mark this last point. Okay, the capacity of a shell with the principal quantum number n can accommodate electrons. The number of accommodation, it is given by 2n square. Students, see, if you all remember, when we did principal quantum number, there was also something called n square, and n square gives me the number of orbitals. Okay, so if I talk about L shell, okay, the L shell, so L has S inside it and it has P inside it. Yes or no? S is on its own 1 and P has 3 orbitals, that is 3. So in all, inside your K shell, there are 4 orbitals. This can be determined, see, for L, so sorry, for your L shell, students, okay, not K shell, L shell, your value of n is what? N is 2. So if you all do n square, you all will get 4, right? So is this matching 4 and 4? Yes or no? So n square gives me the number of orbitals inside a particular shell. Okay, 2n square will give me the number of electrons. Okay, fine. So now see, let us consider the same example, L. So if I do 2n square, what is the value that I get? 8, right? Yes or no? Now students, inside L, we have S, which can accommodate 2 electrons. We have P, which can accommodate 6 electrons. So 2 plus 6 is how much? 8. Okay, if you talk about the next shell, that is M. Okay, so inside M, we have S, P and D. S can accommodate 2, P can accommodate 6 and D can accommodate 10. Yes or no? So how much is it total? 10 plus 6 plus 2 is 18, right? Yes or no? And let us see if it is satisfying this 2n square formula. For the next shell M, what is the value of n? It is 3, right? So 3 square is 9, 9 2s are 18. Okay, fine. Students, please let me know if you all are understanding till now what is happening. If you all understood Pauli's exclusion principle.
Yes, miss.
Yes, miss.
Okay, fine. Now let's discuss the third point, that is Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity. Again, students, what you all can do is you all can mark this statement written in bold over here. Okay, actually that statement is more than enough to understand what Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity is. Pairing of electrons in the orbitals belonging to the same subshell does not occur unless each orbital belonging to the subshell has got 1 electron each. Okay, it's okay if you all are not understanding what is written, because I think so if I give you all one example, you all will understand better. One more thing what you all can do is just mark this last point. Okay, it is observed that half filled and fully filled set of degenerate orbitals have extra stability. Okay, fine. Now I'll tell your students what does this mean. Okay, I hope you all have marked the statements. What we can do is, there were examples given away. Okay, fine. So students, you all can see here, observe this table. First, they have written the configuration for helium, hydrogen, then helium, lithium, beryllium, fluorine and all. Okay, fine. So you all know, by now you all know how to write configuration. Okay, so students, these boxes you all can see, this is called orbital diagram. So what we do in orbital diagram is that one box, okay, one box will indicate one orbital, as simple as that. Okay, now 1s, that is there, 1s, your S subshell, just a minute, your S subshell has only, it cannot be divided further, right? So S will have only one box. So you can see wherever S is there, there is only one box. 1s is there, 2s, okay. But when P comes into picture, now we know that P has 3 sections inside it, right? So your P orbital, you all have to draw 3 boxes together. If you all can see carefully, there are 3 boxes inside it in one column, okay, in one row. If I talk about d orbital, then you all have to draw 5 such boxes. Okay, fine. I hope you all are understanding this. Now, what this orbital diagram indicates, students, this will indicate how electrons are filled. Students, you all can see one arrow is in upward direction, one is in downward. Let us concentrate on helium. Helium has 1s2. So this box is indicating 1s, And what are the two arrows inside that box indicating? The two electrons. That is the reason you all can see for hydrogen there is only one arrow because it has only one electron. And why opposite directions? You all remember Pauli's exclusion principle. Inside one orbitals, the electrons are supposed to have opposite spins. So one is, if the upward one is indicating plus half, the downward one will indicate minus half. Okay, so it is mandatory to one to be in the upward direction, other to be opposite of it, because it is indicating opposite spins. Okay, now students, what was that last rule, the Hund's principle and all? So I'll tell you all what it is. Just a minute. Okay, now see, let us just consider this example only, fluorine's example. Okay, fine. Now see students, what you all do is first you all draw the boxes. You all write the configuration. Obviously, if anyone has asked you all to draw the orbital diagram, very first thing to do is write the configuration. Now, according to the configuration, you all know 1s is there, 2s is there, and 2p. So you all will draw the boxes accordingly. So my first box is 1s, second box is 2s, and the third box 2p will have 3 sections under it. Okay, fine, 2p. All right, fine. Now students, we will do filling of the electrons. Okay, so for the filling of electrons, what we do is that first, if I consider one shell, okay, the first, now here you all have to go shell by shell. Okay, fine. See, there is 1s2. So you all know in the first one, just a minute, in the first shell, first you all will have one electron. First electron will come into picture, and then the second electron will come into picture with opposite spin. Okay. Next, let us go to 2s2. So for 2s2 also it is not a problem. First one electron will come, and then the other one will come in opposite spin. Now what about 2p5? Students, now here is where that Hund's maximum principle comes into picture. In 2p5 students, firstly you all are supposed to fill one electron in one orbital each. Okay, first fill one electron in one orbital each. So we have 1, 2, 3, total 5 hai, theek hai? 1, 2, 3, and then start pairing up. Then I will have paired up this, the first one will be paired up 4, the next one will be paired up 5, and that's it. The last one will remain unpaired because we have 2p5. Okay, 2p6 hota to last wala bhi pair up ho jata. You all are understanding? So according to that Hund's principle, first you all have to fill one way everything. Then you all are supposed to do pairing. If it is 2p5, it doesn't mean, see students, in S it is not a problem because S has only one orbital in it. Okay, so in S subshell it is not a problem, but when it comes to P and D, okay, so first you all have to fill 1, 1. Now for example, if I give you something 3D7 or something, or 3D7, so you all will have 5 boxes, yes or no? So if it is 3D7, let me just quickly draw 5 boxes over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes. Okay, so students, for 3D7, what you all will do? First, you all will put one electron in each. 1, 2, 3. Okay, think of it as an arrow. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so I have filled 5 electrons. I have 3D7. Now starts pairing up. So first one will be paired up 3D6, and the second one will be paired up 3D7. So your 3 of them are unpaired. Okay, fine. So that is what Hund's, this last point is. Okay, Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity. Students, again see, this orbital diagram actually is not important for our chapter, but why you all should know this is for this particular point, the last point that I asked you all to mark. It is observed that half filled and fully filled set of orbitals have extra stability. For example, see, if you have 2p3, okay, 2p3 means all the 3 boxes will have 1, 1 electron. 2p6 means all the 3 boxes will have paired up electrons. So such scenarios where the orbital is either half filled or fully filled, they are more stable as compared to, for example, if I say 2p4. Now in 2p4, what will happen, students? You all will put 1 in each, and the first one will be paired up. So there are 2 unpaired. Okay, so if you all compare the 3 situations, 2p3, 2p4, 2p6, obviously 2p3 and 2p6 are the one with more stability. Okay, fine. Now the question is why I discussed this point. Students, if you all remember last time when I gave you all the homework for electronic configuration, I told you all that there are 2 elements whose configuration is not going to match according to what you all have written. Okay, so one was chromium, and one was copper. Okay, you all remember, right? Did anyone check? Your answer, is it matching? Your answer is matching what is given in the textbook in this table? Yes, students? No, right? It shouldn't match. If it is matching means you will have directly copied and written. It shouldn't match. Okay, fine. So I'll just quickly discuss. This point is also given here in this chapter. Okay, so I can see this topic. It is on page number 51, electronic configuration of copper and chromium. So I can just put a star beside this topic and keep. Okay. Now see, students, when I asked you all to write the configuration, if you have written it normally, your configuration for chromium should look somewhat like this, and for copper, it should look somewhat like this. Is it so? Are your answers matching to what I have circled right now? Please let me know.
Yes. Yes, miss.
Yes, miss.
Okay, fine. Okay, it means that you all are not wrong, students. You all know how to write the configuration. You all have properly written the configuration. But these two things are kind of exceptions. Here, this is the one that I've marked just now. This is the expected electronic configuration. Okay, expected means according to the normal rules and everything. But what is the observed electronic configuration? I'll mark it with a different color. Okay, so this one. So sorry, the one that I've marked just now. Okay, these are the electronic configurations that are observed, okay, in case of chromium and copper. Now can anyone just think, okay, observe everything whatever I've marked, try to think why this is happening, because this is based on what we studied just now, the point that I just discussed. It is based on that. So just observe the expected one, observe the observed one. Observed means in reality how the configuration is. Okay, see the difference that is there and see to it, see if you can come up with an answer. Go compound by compound. First just look at chromium. Okay, so if you all understand about chromium, you all can easily come to know about copper. Don't read the explanation, then you all will obviously come to know. Try to think on your own. Okay, you're sending on chat. Very good. Stability of the atom. Okay, fine. Okay, students, I'll quickly explain, because the thing is the session is about to end in 1.5 minutes. When the session ends, see to it that you all rejoin it without fail. Students, you all can see here the configuration that you all have written has 4s2 and 3d4, but the observed configuration has 4s1 and 3d5. Now here what has happened is one electron from the s orbital has jumped into the d orbital. Okay, this is the expected one, but this is the actual one. So students, all can see 4s2 ka 4s1 ho gaya. Why? Because of 4s2 ka one electron, it went where? It went in 3d4 orbital to make it 3d5. Now students, all remember that Hund's rule wala point. Half filled and full filled valence, or they have more stability. In this scenario, my valence orbital is 3d. Okay, fine, for both copper and chromium. So the compound, see to it that they are in a more stable state. So what they do is they will take one electron. What chromium does it takes one electron from 4s to become 3d5 means half stable, right? Because d has 5 orbitals. And in case of copper, what is happening? 4s2 and 3d9 is getting converted to 4s1 and 3d10, because one electron from 4s is going to 3d, so that 3d9 ka 3d10 ho jaye, that is completely stable. So this can only be seen in chromium and copper, okay, not other elements, because here only the half filled and full filled can easily be reached. Okay, students, please let me know if you all understood this point.